From the center of the galaxy, this is ForceCenter, a show about Star Wars, pop culture, and the ultimate adventure, kids home from school, and life itself. I'm Ken Napzok.
I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and I like clinking dishes noises. It makes me feel like I'm doing a show in Vegas.
That's my husband. I'm Jennifer Landa.
Hey, kids home from school. That's the same thing. Same thing.
Yeah.
We're here to talk about a really cool thing that was slipped into the news announcements last week on Star Wars, but everyone caught it. But hey, we're going to have fun diving into it. It is looking ahead to Ahsoka Season 2. We're going into the heart of Ahsoka 2. When, where, how, why, all those questions they taught you in school when you were in school and not home while mom's recording a podcast. Before we get to all that, today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. I'll explain what's holding me up. But Jen, we're starting with you on life and Star Wars adventures. Shout out to Alex and Molly, who had their own Star Wars adventures discussion and tipped the cap to our discussions on their Q&A, big Q&A this week, and had fun watching. Jen, it's a Martin Luther King Day, which is an important day to reflect and remember, but also it's a non-school day.
A non-school day. And just this morning, my daughter grabbed the Furby and Grogu and was trying to have them talk to each other, which made me think, she asked,
there.
Yeah, she asked, is there a Grogu Furby? And I was thinking, I'm like, oh, there was the Chewbacca one, right? Remember that? From Comic-Con several years ago? So now I'm like, they got to get on that. Maybe for the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, they can release a Grogu Furby.
Is this something you could work up in your garage, maybe DIY it, and then market it, patent pending it, and sell it?
If I was a droid builder, yeah, I probably could, but I do not have that technology. No.
Got to partner with someone. But hey,
Exactly.
Look, I think it's in case you all hear some background noises. It's we've had dogs. I have my gardeners.
That's my dog.
It's part of the flavor and spice of ForceCenter. We are normal humans recording from home studios, and Jen, don't worry about anything that may happen here today.
My wife is home from work, and I got the screen up, but you might hear a mystery sneeze behind me. You never know.
Hey. There you go. And
that's my life adventure. I got nothing else. I can't think of anything else. No.
I think a Grogu Furby is entirely possible now. The mania for smashing two things together in Toyland is strong. I think it's Transformers meets Masters of the Universe is the nostalgia thing they're trying to sell now. Is that it? I don't know. Wow. But mashing things up.
Yeah, mashing them up.
What's the pitch for that? The Dinobots go to Eternia and get crashed there or something? Wow.
I think this just lands. It's in the land of imagination. I don't know if there's a narrative to support it.
No canon or anything.
You know, I'll wait till Dan Larson breaks it down on Secret Galaxy on how that happened. That's fantastic. That's great. I love that. Joseph, any Star Wars Life adventures in you, and any mystery sneezes yet?
No mystery sneezes yet. It was a really good, interesting week. I started my new newsletter that I'm trying to do once a week. I put the first one out on Tuesday, and it is going to be about like my life adventures and creative adventures, but trying to be helpful and inspire other people to just finish the things they're working on. So I set an ambitious goal for the first week of writing a rough draft, first rough draft of another short film I want to do. And then I was like, oh boy. I really backed myself into a corner, which is the point of, I should have called the blog Back Yourself into a Corner instead of Finish Your Monsters. But so I had that fun adventure of trying to get that done. And then this is weird. I had a really amazing adventure that involved a special thing that a friend did. And I was all ready to talk about it. And then I realized this is a very personal thing. And I forgot to ask my friend if I can talk about it on a Star Wars podcast. So I did a mystery thing that was real meaningful for the friend. Love it. Those were my kind of big actual life adventures. The other thing for me that was kind of a Star Wars adventure was I've been wrestling the last couple of weeks with trying to find good balance between the need to relax and a desire to really be assertive and move forward with all the things I want to accomplish in life. And I think I'm having this epiphany that I am just kind of an obsessive person by nature. So if I decide I'm going to really kick ass on this project. I get obsessive about it. But if I'm also like, I'm going to sit around on the couch, I also get very obsessive and assertive about it. And trying to find the balance between the two has been a struggle. And in that balance yesterday, I decided on a whim to give myself a break for part of the day and watch the new MCU show Echo, which is fascinating. I think relevant to future Star Wars conversations because Marvel is trying this, and Disney calling it a Marvel Spotlight show. That means to communicate. You don't have to watch anything else. Do you like this character? Are you interested? Give it a try. And I think people were like excited about that, but then also like, well, Echo is a character who is deeply tied to Daredevil and Kingpin, and the character was introduced in the Hawkeye show. How is this a spotlight? In spoiler for the first episode, warning for anybody who doesn't want the first half hour of the episode spoiled. There are new scenes, but then they just straight up replay the relevant Echo scenes from Hawkeye, and not even as like a previously on, just build it into the narrative. And it was just sort of fascinating with our ongoing conversations about how do you celebrate stories that get their value from being interconnected while also making sure that it is entirely open and receptive to new people diving in. I thought Echo was pretty fascinating to watch. It's a really good show and I'm really enjoying it and a great character, but it's also fascinating in light of our ongoing conversations about how to strike that balance.
That's fascinating. I plan to watch Echo. I want to support the show, and Hawkeye is one of my favorites of the MCU shows out there, so it all makes sense. But that's I saw some of the discourse, but didn't know what exactly it was referring to. That's fascinating. I think I don't know if that could work in Star Wars, but it's definitely helping address that problem, or at least trying to address it.
Yeah. It's almost like if Mandalorian, season 3 started with just some scenes from the Book of Boba Fett relevant stuff. So you didn't have to, that kind of thing. Anyway, hotbed issue right at the top of the podcast of my life adventures. But honestly, that was what's on my mind. But Ken, it sounds like you had perhaps the most exciting and challenging adventure this week.
Yes, absolutely. Excruciating pain. In fact, if you watch the camera, I'm kind of propped up to take the pressure off my back. I have a chronic back problem, old pro wrestling injury that I let linger and blah, 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 blah. So every once in a while, it's always there, but every once in a while I heard it, and Grace was gone this weekend shooting a short film. And she was excited about that, and I was kind of excited, like, all right, cool, maybe I'll have one of them bachelor weekends. For me, that just means a ton of Fortnite and maybe some Mexican food. But hurt my back, been literally bed and couch ridden for the entire weekend. So it was a lesson in here we are, and how do we heal, and how do we get back to it. Fortunately, sleeping hurts it more than anything. So if I end up standing in this episode, I apologize. But it was a long, dark weekend of the soul, because my Dolphins, my journey with the Dolphins this season is over. They got their butts absolutely handed to them in -4-degree weather in Kansas City Saturday night.
Was it 7-26? Is that correct?
That was definitely the score. Definitely the score.
It's been a fascinating journey with needing a personal connection to sports. Then it makes me invested. I Googled on Sunday morning, like, did the Dolphins pull it out? I'm hoping for Ken. And no, they did not.
They did not. But it was it's a good lesson about it's what I like about sports, and not the pain, but the it's not only one team can win, so it's about the journey there and what you can learn and what you could take with you, and old and new, if you want to apply it with Star Wars, and we'll look to next season. But it was just fun for me to get back to loving that team in a way I haven't. It's been a lifelong obsession with that team, but over the last 24 years, it's waned, and my relationship with sports has changed. But I loved it, and it was fun to get back to it. And as I kind of emotionally disconnected from Star Wars during the strike, I needed to find my way back to other things I had loved, because I have a habit, as I've said before in the show, of just going, I guess that era's over in my life. And that's not exactly, sometimes that is the way, sometimes it's not the way. So it was fun to get back into that. And then at the same time, while I'm on my couch, luckily I was able to get out right before the back really went out, and we got copies of the new Age of Rebellion visual dictionary, or visual, was that what, I forget what this one's actually called. And that was fun, because I have felt, and I don't know if Joseph, Jen, you feel the same way as we're about to talk about Ahsoka, we grew up with, we know every corner of the original trilogy, every corner of the prequels. We know most of the corner of the sequel trilogy, even now, 6 years in the rearview mirror. But I don't know every corner of those Star Wars shows. And I had a ton of fun, like a smile on my face I haven't had in a long while about a Star Wars piece of media in my hand, of just going, oh, that's that character's name. Oh, that's right. That guy was there. It was a ton of fun. So, I'm trying to reconnect with all those passions. And that was the lesson I'll take from an absolute ass whooping of a football game.
I'm thrilled to hear that. Yeah, I've been excited about that Age of Rebellion. It's got Andor and Kenobi on the cover, which is just sort of funny of like, yep, they live in the same time, but they've had different lives. And I picked the book up at a store and realized I didn't realize how much it was covering the entire era with books and comics and all sorts of great stuff. It's like, oh, Ken likes eras. Ken's going to like this one. So glad that that you were able to enjoy it in your pain.
Yeah, it helped with the pain a little bit. But it's great. Yeah. And we'll probably dive into it on the show. Definitely be part of our Will of the Force exclusive Patreon shows. But there was... it was fun to, you're right, books and comics from the last almost 10 years factored into this book as well, and that was fun, and in a weird way, I don't say needed like I was demanding it, but all right, I want to know a little, I want to acknowledge that Evan Verlaine was a character that I liked in the comics in 2015, and to have her there was that kind of stuff was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. That's our adventures. That's our show. Bye-bye.
Do you feel physically ready to dive into perhaps a new era with Ahsoka?
I do. Take it away. I hand the talking stick to you, sir.
I will take the talking stick, the hammer of the Mandalorian, to talk about the heart of Ahsoka Season 2. As Ken said at the top, and as pretty much everybody watching this or listening to this knows, I'm sure, Lucasfilm officially announced Ahsoka Season 2 with a sly little mention in the press release about the Mandalorian and Grogu movie. The next day, StarWars.com published a sketch by Dave Filoni. The wild sketcher strikes again. There's a sketch by Dave Filoni and a brief confirmation at the new season. Here's what the actual text of that release said. It said, "The story continues. Following the news that Ahsoka Season 2 is in development," mentioned the announcement of the upcoming The Mandalorian Grogu film for Disney+, Lucasfilm revealed today a new sketch from series creator Dave Filoni. The image depicts Ahsoka Tano and her apprentice Sabine Wren atop one of the ancient statues seen on Peridia in Season 1 with the words, "The story continues," in the sky. For more on Ahsoka, check out StarWars.com Season 1 episode guide. See behind-the-scenes images shared by the cast, or take our quiz and see how well you know Ahsoka Tano. I shared that part of the press release because it got me. I was trying to avoid my work, and I went down a quiz rabbit hole on StarWars.com.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to talk all sorts of details, questions, and hopes about the next season, but I want to start with some of the big picture stuff, as we often do. Jennifer, are you happy a second season was announced? And if so, why? What's got you excited?
I am excited because I feel like the first season was a lot of table setting, as I've said before. It was getting people caught up to speed with who these characters are, especially if they haven't watched any of the animated content. So, yeah, I'm excited. I feel, and that sketch, well, I'm going to get into that later, but I do think that, and I'm also glad because after the announcement of the Mandalorian and Grogu movie, it makes me feel comforted to know that we're going to get Ahsoka's storyline in a whole season, as opposed to trying to like shoehorn something into that movie, which I was like, oh, if they're not going to have a second season, are they going to try and continue that? No, we get a whole new season, probably 8 episodes, 7 episodes, which is not, I wish we could have more, but I'll take what I can get at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I really agree. I think I'm excited by it in terms of both the show and the business, about the creative part and kind of what it says about where Lucasfilm is headed. I really thought that the first season was a complete story in terms of Ahsoka and Sabine's emotional journey. They both start one place and they end in this new, refreshed place. But I agree with you that a lot of the plot actually was a decent amount of table setting. And we got Thrawn and the Night Sisters over here. We got Ezra here. We got Shin in this place. And we have Baylan, like Mark Hamill's joke about The Force Awakens, almost a literal cliffhanger of standing on the edge of that cliff, looking toward what is next. So it felt really good from that sense of Ahsoka Season 1 set up so much potential story, so much table setting, and now we can eat. Like, that might have been the press release I would send out. Like, the table's set. Now we can eat. I also think for me on the business side, there's so much doubt of streaming and how much material to put out and how interconnected it should or shouldn't be. Iger has been out there saying, I think kind of from a damage control perspective to people who are upset that we put out too much Marvel, we put out too much Star Wars. So it put Ahsoka season 2 and will any of these stories resolve into this sort of a period of doubt for me, which is extra hard for Ahsoka, because from the second I saw that character in a movie theater in 2008, her future has always been this weird cloud that goes along with her. Doesn't never ruin the character for me, but I mean, that was the conversation in 2008 before Clone Wars even started, and it was just the movie of like, cool, Anakin's got a Padawan. Do you like her? You don't? Cool. She gonna die in Order 66? Like that question of Ahsoka's fate has been walking like a shadow behind her for her entire history of storytelling. And so to have that sort of relieved of like, nope, the character's established in this new era in her sort of her middle age, her Jedi Master period, and we're going to get to walk her toward her future and not wonder about it with all the continuations of Clone Wars and canceling and coming back and will there be a Ahsoka television show and all that. It's so nice to just know, yes, we're going to get, if not the rest of her story, another big chunk of her story. Ken, what are your thoughts?
I'd almost be suspicious if Dave was selling those Ahsoka Lives ? Shirts out of the back of his car trunk. Like, I mean, you've created a character that always has her fate hanging above her, and you're right about that from the very beginning. And that's been part of the fun of the character for me. It's like a wrestling match. Just when you think she's counted out, she's back in the ring, and I think that's kind of fun. Though it could potentially be frustrating if it doesn't get answered. I think the end of the Clone Wars season 5 and Cartoon Network's decision, all that is a great example of it. So because of that, I'm with you. I'm with both of you. Just in terms of business and even as a fan, I'm intrigued. I'm excited. I'm curious about another season. But in terms of the business, in terms of the discussion around these shows, it's to quote Saw Gerrera, a clarity of purpose. I like that it's just there. We know it. The year we'll discuss when it might possibly come out, but we know that this is there. Now, some cynics might say, well, it's not the first time Lucasfilm has announced something that didn't happen. Of course, I absolutely, totally get that. But this will happen. This will, in some form or another, we know, and it makes sense. And I like that. Historically, shows that have had great runs didn't always get the guarantee. I've always talked about how kind of famously Game of Thrones had to wait for an extension. I think the first 3 seasons, they still didn't know. It still, it worked, but the cost and everything about it, HBO, held it above them a little bit. So it's not the first time a show had to kind of wait to see. And I'm excited that Dave gets to continue the story with that big old statue finger pointing in the direction of forward.
That is right. It is the story continues ... Not the story concludes. So there's a lot to talk about there. But I do want to talk about the elephant in the room, or sadly not in the room, with the tragic passing of Ray Stevenson, who portrayed Baylan Skoll. The sketch by Filoni with Ahsoka and Sabine standing on the statue where we last saw Balin really suggests that the story will continue. We're going to talk about the Mortis of it all and those questions and that statue. But it certainly was a suggestion that Balin was headed in that direction. And now here Ahsoka and Sabine are literally on his trail. So Ken, how are you feeling about a potential recast of Balin? And do you have any hopes for the actor should there be a recast?
Yeah, I'm actually adjusting on the fly because I realized my first choice. My first choice was already in Star Wars, but you know what? Andy Serkis kind of broke that, and other folks have had little dual roles along the way. I sadly, tragically, this is where we're at, and Ray Stevenson was just the favorite of that series for me and a lot of folks. His beard alone, right? I was looking at Mark Lewis Jones, who played Shagga in Game of Thrones, but of course he was Captain Kennedy in Last Jedi. So I don't know, but he's that kind of actor with gravitas. There's the guy a lot of people were. That's the guy I'm trying to look at at Dean S. Jagger. Is that it? No, that is the Little John. I'm looking for the guy who played the great John in Game of Thrones in season 1 with the his finger gets ripped off by a dire wolf, and he's like, this is great, let's do it. That guy has that kind of again, that word gravitas gets thrown around as a joke so much, but that's what Ray brought to it. He, in some sense, I fear he could be irreplaceable, but I think this is where we're at, and it was such an intriguing character. And unless something weird happens, right? Unless he walks into some force flames and is gone. The pilot episode, we just see they're gonna want to explore this character. So I'm open to a recasting.
Yeah, Jennifer, how are you feeling about a recasting and any desires? I guess.
I love Great John. Yes, Clive Mantel. That's what it says.
You might be right.
Clive Mantle. Yeah, great choice. I'm so conflicted. Ray Stevenson was fantastic, and that's always difficult with a character that I love so much, and I'm so tied to the actor. At the same time, it's a newer character, so I think that will help. He was obviously, a main part of the show, but he wasn't. A lot of people didn't know Ray Stevenson as well, so that also can help with the recasting. And I think it's tricky for whoever they bring in next, because you don't want to copy what Ray did in his performance. You still want to keep the essence of the character. And I think a smart way to go would to really give a different performance so that there's not as much comparison. But again, it's tricky because you want to fit with kind of what's already been brought forward with this character. So I was thinking of like Game of Thrones, which they notoriously had so many recasts, right? And sometimes it worked better than others, and sometimes you were like, "What?" So yeah, this will be very interesting. But I think that no matter what, we're all going to be rooting for this actor because they're picking up this character and taking the torch forward. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's so great to bring up, Jennifer, the idea of what is the goal of a recast. Are you trying to play like just the spirit of the character? But if you don't, match the mannerisms, maybe that's even, not better, but that's a different way to do it. I think for me, I really want recasts to be, it's a reality. It's just a reality. And I think there's some recasts that we have all culturally accepted, and then some that I think people have kind of dug their heels in. I was thinking about my mom used to watch the soap opera All My Children, and I would see it all summer, and some of it I didn't understand, but as a little kid I would just get hooked. And sometimes they had the thing on soap operas back in the day where you would just be watching on Tuesday, and this one actor would be like, "Oh, that's my favorite." And then you'd tune in on Wednesday, and the actor would walk into the scene, and then there'd just be a literal voiceover like, "The role of Bob
Yes,
Buchenbach is now played by Chad Williams." And like sometimes it would be like there was one character back in the day who was like a kind of a gonzo journalist, kind of 70s American man with blonde hair and a mustache. And then like just like one day it was just like, this guy's now played by James Bond guy, and he was British now, and he just was, and like. It's a totally different thing, but I think there's that just sort of embracing the reality of recasts that I kind of I want to get into that spirit of, and it's not like I want to have it come back and Baylan Skoll is like, 8 feet tall and a redhead and 22. Like, you don't, I want somebody to play the spirit of the character, but being really okay with the recast because it's just reality.
Right.
Yeah, and looking, I'm trying to think off the top of my head, like some of the great recastings in film and television history, right? That were either acknowledged or not acknowledged, and we're just so aware of it as a movie news obsessed kind of pop culture world that you just know it. You know Terrence Howard was replaced and Don Cheadle comes in, and
that's what I was thinking of. Yeah,
that's a news story, and we would cover it as well. So we're past that point, but. I know what you mean. We grew up in a different. I don't know if it's different, but it's like Dick Sargent, Dick York. Which was your favorite Darren? That was the only questions we had.
Yeah, the Becky's on Roseanne, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I think maybe for some of us, certainly it will speak for our age of growing up with the original trilogy, where those actors became so synonymous with the characters, and even Carrie Fisher sort of wrestled with how do I accept that this is a part of my identity, and I cannot remove Leia from myself. It is a part of my identity. That maybe there's something about Star Wars in particular that people are used to saying, like Hayden, they'll watch Hayden Christensen in another movie, but in their heart it's Anakin. I think there can be that thing in Star Wars in particular. But yeah, like Riverdale made jokes about Second Reggie, who has now made the leap to movie star in the May to December film.
So good. So good. But I think it's also like, depending if you stake the claim that like the soap opera, it's about the story. It's about the plot. It's about the characters. The actors are expendable. Who cares about the actors? But we really need to continue this story. And Star Wars has been about the story, but you're right. Like, Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford were so synonymous. They were like ambassadors of Star Wars and of their characters. And so it would kind of it's like uncharted territory for Star Wars to now kind of shift. So, and one last thing I want to say that will be interesting to see is if this new actor will portray Baylan as being more of a villain. So I think that was what's so interesting about Ray Stevenson's performance, that I think even Dave Filoni was like, hey, remember, you're the villain. And he's like, yeah, but am I? Are you sure? So I think that will be interesting if this new actor kind of plays into that more, or kind of keeps it in tradition with what Ray did.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is that, and I could be wrong, that Baylan is going to have a larger role and go through a change. He makes choices, he makes definitive choices, but he doesn't feel like he changes his path in Ahsoka season 1. He's got a goal, and he's walking towards it and looking at it by the end. He makes some choices with Shin along the way, but he doesn't go through like a crisis of I'm at a decision point and I must change or not change. So for me, a couple actors, Liam Cunningham I think is a great both physical close match, but also just like he can play that same sort of just heavy-hearted, I wish I didn't have this burden, but damn it, I do, and I'm charming as hell, even while I'm maybe making dubious decisions. He's really good with that. Thing that doesn't come up a lot is, I also would not mind if the casting crew and Dave Filoni said, let's just go to a bunch of shows on the West End or even smaller theater in London and go, you know how people used to become stars. Hey, should we get that Patrick Stewart guy? He's been in a couple movies, but he's mostly a stage actor. Should we get him for that Star Trek? And it's also to me an opportunity for somebody who we have not, as a culture, heard of.
I love that as an answer. If I was looking up some Ray stuff, he came from Bristol Old Vic Theatre School, all that kind of stuff. You're absolutely right. There's an opportunity to do that, and Liam Cunningham's a great choice. Sir Davos in anything's wonderful for me. Any guy who can grow a big bushy gray beard and wield a sword, I guess, is what we might be looking for. But I'm actually intrigued by what you're saying there. A bit of an unknown to come in.
There you go, Stephen Fry. He can grow a good beard.
Yes. That's all it takes.
That's a jokey one. I do want to touch briefly on, I think we are all, we are making assumptions that Baylan's story will continue. We're making assumptions that it will be a recast. Is there any world where either of you are imagining an attempt at AI, or do you just feel like that is not the spirit of what is going on with that character, and that the AI has more to do with a long association with actors from the original trilogy, because that's mostly where the AI has been for Leia, for Tarkin, for Luke?
I had the brief thought. I had not thought about it until kind of going over the outline this weekend for this show, of if he was to go quick, whatever that might, if that was the next chapter, they just didn't want to explore the character beyond, he goes to Mortis and dies, like something like that, then maybe. But I hadn't thought about it, and it does feel different, right? It does feel like there's so much to explore this character that this is the way to do it. But this is also where we are in the industry and this point in time, where you have to think, oh, could they do that? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, Jennifer?
I find it so troubling and so disgusting, like that idea, because of how sudden his passing was. He didn't even get to see like the reception of all of us seeing his performance. He has no idea. We don't even know. Like maybe he would have been like, I actually don't want to come back for a season 2. I don't know. It just feels gross, as opposed to somebody who's older, who was already established in Star Wars, who had a relationship. I don't know. It just. Ugh. And I know that we're heading there, absolutely. But I do think that they're going to try it out more with like smaller roles. So yeah, I mean, obviously, if you only had one scene, but it still just feels gross. I really hope that they don't do that.
Yeah, we had our talk about recasting some of the original trilogy if they were to play if Leia, Luke, Han play a large role, and
right.
we were all kind of on team recast. I also just think we are at a different time than we were, back in season 2 of Mandalorian, where AI is a huge conversation and trying to define more what that means and all that. And I think for me, like, I agree that AI is a tool. It's not the tool I'm upset with. It's my fear of the socio-political, moral rules and choices that govern the use of that tool. And I think that I feel strongly that we are in a place in society where tools are great. I am not saying we should stop using computers and go back to the Stone Age or the analog age, but I think it is to too many people's financial advantage to stop humans from talking to one another. So my concern with anything sort of AI is that it is a tool that will be abused in a way that dehumanizes us. And I think that's the thing I'm thinking of more than anything. This has been such a human experience that, Baylan had enough lines to fit on a napkin practically. And yet Ray Stevenson just imbued it with emotion. He has a bunch of lines that are literally one word, and he stares out into the distance, and he imbued that with humanity. And we've all gone through this human experience of loving that performance while also dealing with the utter tragedy that human isn't here anymore. So to face all of that humanity with, we made him in a computer, feels dehumanizing. And I don't think, my guess is that it is not on the table.
Yeah, I would agree with you there.
Yeah. Again, I do want to touch briefly, and then we'll move on from the Baylan conversation. I have great hopes that we are moving into the bizarre and the mystical. For, not that Twin Peaks is a great example necessarily for Star Wars, but Michael J. Anderson very famously played the little man from Another Place, the arm in Twin Peaks, and I believe, if I understand the story correctly, demanded a lot of money for the 3rd season of Twin Peaks. He played already a bizarre, unknowable, mystical creature, and David Lynch just turned him into a tree with some gum on it. And I was like, oh, okay. The same character. He was the evolution of that character. That actor evolved into a tree with some weird, sticky, gummy stuff on it. But if Baylan is walking into Mortis, I mean, we're talking about like those season 6 episodes of the Clone Wars where Qui-Gon can't fully materialize his body, so he's a bunch of like weird mystical fireflies. The Force priestesses that Yoda interacts with are, floating, comedy dell'arte masks with robes and spooky voices. There is a world where Baylan walks into Mortis and becomes a robe with a floating mask or whatever. If that fit the story, would that be too out there for you, Jen, or would you be okay with that?
I love the weirder, the better. But I've been going to Reddit a lot lately. I really enjoy it, and the kids on Reddit, are like, Ahsoka was probably as weird as it could get this first season for the average viewer. If we start going towards that route, I just think we might lose people. I mean, the Purgles, that already, but they can kind of say, they're whales. They're just in space, right? There's some sort of anchor to it, but like this other stuff that we know, I don't know. I want it. I want to see it. And I think Dave might want to tell it. So I don't know. We'll see what they do.
I think so. I think a lot of what Dave does and is doing is his influence and his stature within Lucasfilm grows, is to validate not only the characters and stories from the animation that he's worked in for a long time, but saying the aesthetic that George and other people, myself included, created in the Clone Wars is valid, which means we can go as bonkers as we want. We ask why not, why. And I kind of think with a literal sketch pointing to Mortis, that's pointing to weird. Ken, how do you feel?
I had the exact same reaction on that Filoni napkin drawing that was released. That this and Jen, I don't think you're wrong at all. I think this could be. I have a list of people who will probably call and text me the first time they step foot in Mortis of what is this? Like, oh, you need to go to Clone Wars, and I think. Look, Dave is smart enough to understand that Star Wars is all things, right? The Star Wars is all it's X-wings blowing up TIE fighters, it's lightsabers, it's cool black cloaks in the shadows. He knows because he loves it all, right? And one of my favorite things about Dave is listening to him talk about Star Wars. I wish he had a Star Wars podcast like that more than maybe even writing shows. And so he gets it, but also he has this desire to push these boundaries and these kind of stories, and we know George did as well. And it's not that he's just doing George cover songs here. I think he sees the value in it. And Joseph had when the finger pointing, I was like, oh, it's about to get weird. Which Jen, to your point, we'll see. Maybe I'll go into Reddit on that day. But I think a lot of fans will enjoy it. And I think if people can just untether themselves from, a lot of the other things known in Star Wars and explore this, I push back. Other than Mortis, I historically back in the day didn't like some of the Clone Wars weirder stuff, but the Clone Wars rewatch report here we did on ForceCenter really changed my view on that stuff. And it's not something I want all the time, but Baylan as Force flies, it's not improbable.
Yeah.
One thing when I was rewatching unintentionally The Last Jedi, I think last week, and I really got sucked in. And there's a lot of weird things in that movie, and I think the reason why they work is because of how they are shot visually. Like I just was thinking of Rey in the dark side cave, and it's trippy. It's really trippy, but it works because of pirate booty and apple juice. As those of you who are watching on YouTube can see. That's why it works. Because nothing will solve a problem like pirate booty.
Your daughter is like fulfilling the role of like a pit droid of like, Mom, do you need these to keep going? Do you need some chips?
Anyways, this is why I like weird things, because it's unexpected. And it's my life. But I think like if you make it more like stylistic visually, I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah. I think the general audience can be like, oh, I get where this is going.
Yeah, I think if you make people feel the emotion of it, so it doesn't feel like it is weird to be weird, but like, everything that Rey is feeling in that cave, the shots and the design help you feel what she is feeling. The confusion and the desire and all that. So I really agree. We'll have more room to talk about weird. So I want to get into some other story stuff about Ahsoka. Again, based on that image, it does seem like we'll definitely be following Ahsoka and Sabine's adventures on Peridia. Ken, do you think that the story of Ahsoka season 2 might take place entirely in this new to us galaxy? Or do you expect or hope for this season to also advance the general story of the New Republic versus Thrawn? Thrawn, Night Sister time, or just we're in this new galaxy with Ahsoka and team?
I would hope that it's a good mix of both, only because I really want to know what happens next when Thrawn and the Night Sisters show up in the other galaxy, and I don't want to have to wait too much longer for that. I'm intrigued and curious about that. But I do think what you're saying speaks to what I kind of sense has grown of the show, that at least for right now, it is Ahsoka and Sabine. Throw Shin Hati in there as well, and what's going on Peridia, and then it's Ezra and Thrawn, and I'd say Hera, Ezra and Thrawn, and the New Republic and Thrawn, and we might be in a little bit of our Two Towers phase, where the characters are separate. Last Jedi, Empire Strikes Back, where we're on separate tracks leading back to someplace. But the concept of just being on Peridia is not far-fetched to me, that there's a lot to explore over there. You left 4 plus characters, counting on Marauders and Nati and all those things. So the Noti, I always say naughty, like they're naughty little turtles.
I think you're naughty for not including Huyang in your character count. I'll say that.
And others, and the rest, the professor and Marianne, and Huyang as well. But anyways, it's not far-fetched. It's not far-fetched idea.
Yeah, no, I mean, and people keep talking about, Ahsoka season 2. I hope to see this for Thrawn and Night Sisters, and I hope to see more storytelling for Thrawn and Night Sisters. But there's a part of me that feels like that there's a possibility, and to me a really intriguing one, of just staying in this other galaxy. That Ahsoka introduced us to what's going on in the galaxy that we know, and in those excuse me, pieces are set on the board of Ezra and Thrawn and Night Sisters, but I can see this just being the chance to really explore this new galaxy. I think I said this before, it's one of my favorite things about Ahsoka, the way it ended with everything on Peridia in this other galaxy, of just enough factions to really have so much. Baylan wants this. Ahsoka and Sabine are together now, and they need this. Huyang's probably going to stay with them, but maybe Huyang will have start training droids to use lightsabers. I don't know what. He'll probably be with them, but then Shin and her life and what happens to the naughty. It reminds me of a good way when I would get just enough action figures to feel like I got enough good guys, I got enough bad guys, I got enough scoundrels, I got enough vehicles and playsets. I can really, create this story. And to me, there's also this incredibly huge value in we've created a huge and revolutionary thing in Star Wars of another galaxy. Don't we want to just dive in and really, really play with our new toys? Kind of feeling for me. Jen, how are you feeling about it?
I had to mute myself there. I think it's going to be a mix of both. And I keep thinking about, I went back to the StarWars.com announcement, and they said Filoni is still working on the movie, right? He's still working on his movie. So then that makes me think, well, what story are they going to tell here? How are they going to set it up for the movie? So I think we are going to get a big chunk with Ahsoka and Sabine. The show is called Ahsoka, after all, on Peridia. Another Mortis arc on the show. And I think the last half will be more Thrawn, New Republic, setting it up for the movie. I mean, that's just, I feel like this could be his room to kind of play, have fun, go weird. And then towards the end, it's like, all right, let's get down to the bigger picture of what's happening here. Well, not that the gods and stuff are not big picture, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
They're the biggest.
I feel like
biggest picture, right?
To follow Thrawn and the Night Sisters of the New Republic, for me, it would mean in a sort of narrative way that for the season to feel at all complete or whole, that they would have to eventually intersect. And there's a bunch of great, I think, prestige television where you're following three different strands and you kind of don't know why, and then they come together in this, beautiful, surprising way. And I can see that. But that leads me to this other big question. Ken, do you think Ahsoka and Sabine are destined to go back to the known galaxy, or is this new galaxy where their fate lies forever? Certainly the end of Ahsoka suggests that Anakin gives them the nod, gives them the Force Spirit. Anakin gives them the smile. The Moray, the Convor, is there kind of winking at Ahsoka saying you're on the right path. There's all this sense of Ahsoka thought this was such a bad idea that Sabine do this, and then having some peace with maybe this is where we need to be. So I certainly think they have a purpose. They have an adventure there. My question is this their forever destiny, or are Ahsoka and Sabine headed back to the known galaxy at some point?
Ooh, it's a TBD, or in betting parlance, it's a push. I don't know. But I think for right now, I think what you just said there towards the end of that was the something that seems to be very important to Dave in his Jedi storytelling of where you are, right, might be where you need. We always go back to the great Obi-Wan Ezra conversation. You're not supposed to be here. I know you feel you're supposed to be here, but this isn't your story. You're needed elsewhere as a Jedi. And I think, if I did have to put down bets down on FanDuel, not a sponsor of the show, I'd say Sabine goes back, but Ahsoka stays, right? But as I say that, this is where the business side creeps in. But you have a movie coming, and now I'm not talking Mandalorian Grogu. You have the Filoni Fest 27 or whatever it's coming out. Ahsoka, I think, would have to factor into that. But could she factor into it as a force god or something like that? Yeah, absolutely. So I think I'm open to the idea of she goes there, Sabine goes there, and never shall they return. It'd be intriguing to me. I think Sabine and Ezra will be fighting side by side again. But I think there's I think it could happen. Also, go back to even like the previous question of I almost pitch it back to y'all as we deal with these big things of we don't know. We're going to talk about when Ahsoka 2 might come out, but if we have Mandalorian and Grogu, and a lot of people, Joseph, are all in on what you kind of were leading us through the other day of it. That's a Mandalorian and Grogu story for a reason. That's the title. I love the title. Other people don't. Fair enough. But that Mando 4. I know it'd be weird titled The Mandalorian, but Thrawn and the Night Sisters return in that. It's not like Thrawn hasn't been mentioned in that kind of section of the storytelling, and that there's a lot to be dealt with there. You got Ezra and all those characters in Bo-Katan. Again, I know the title alone would cause discourse, but then that could lead to Ahsoka season 2 that deals more with this stuff, and then maybe in the movie, it's where it all dumps in. But that's just pure business talk, which is kind of boring at times, but it puts some
I think some
stories.
Well, I mean, I think going back to the great discourse of should the Mandalorian and Grogu stories have been advanced in a show called Boba Fett, or would have people received it just fine if it was called Boba Fett, Age of the Mandalorians, and Din and Grogu were in the trailers, and you knew the whole time that they're going to cover. There is an intersection that's fascinating to me about business and creativity, because it's how do you need to prepare people to their expectations to enjoy the story, because clearly just people get hung up on, I expected Boba Fett to be in the Boba Fett show, and it impairs my ability to enjoy the narrative. So I do think it is both a business and a creative decision. And to me, what's kind of fascinating about it is we're in this new era where they can keep trying different things. And if they really are ending up with like, well, we're shifting things around, and what we need the Thrawn and the Night Sisters and the Ezra story to kind of get caught up. What's to stop them from doing as one season of the Ezra and Thrawn show, if that's the focus, instead of just kind of saying we have these pre-existing shows and here's stories we need to cram into them, but rather just hopefully labeling the shows as exactly what they are, so that fans don't get it blocked by you prep me for this and then surprise me with what the actual storytelling focus was.
Yeah. Mandalorian, Thrawn, new Thrawn, who dis should be the title of season 4.
New Galaxy, who dis. Jennifer, do you have thoughts on all that intersection of marketing and storytelling, and just where does this story go? Where do you put it? How do you communicate it to people?
Well, I was going to save it for later. Let's think.
Well, you can save it for later.
I'll save it for later.
I'll save it for later.
Okay. Yeah, it's really complicated because it's all about like when are they releasing everything? How do they need to set it up? How familiar are people going to be? How will Star Wars Celebration factor into it? There's all these pieces to the marketing puzzle that that we're going to have to figure out.
Agreed. So to go back to just story, I'm going to really try to practice what I preach and not become attached to a thought, and talk more about hopes and dreams, and I will let them go when the story that is being told emerges. But I'm just sort of in love with an idea of staying focused on Ahsoka and Sabine in this other world, because it feels like here's this massive gift. Play with that. I'm dying for Thrawn and Night Sisters story, but there's a sort of a purity to saying focus on Ahsoka and Sabine, the potential weirdness of Mortis, which we're going to get into on the other half of the show here. But I can really see Ahsoka and Sabine staying in this galaxy. We'll talk about is Ahsoka heading to Mortis with a finger of a Mortis god literally pointing forward and saying the story continues. That seems pretty obvious. I think there's a possibility that Sabine gets sent back through some portal, or Ahsoka goes to Mortis and Sabine starts some form of a new Jedi Order in this new galaxy. I think the thing that I'm really, really intrigued by is this is massive, that a new galaxy has been established. It's not quite a multiverse story because it's still Mortis. It's still connected. The Night Sisters and the Jedi have touched this galaxy. It's all still connected. But it is sort of Star Wars with all of the big pillars, all of the thematic material, utterly unburdened by any of the pedantic part of canon. You have an entire galaxy where you can just have anything. Like, honestly, before the announcement, going back to the business side, that Filoni has this new position at Lucasfilm as, guiding all, not necessarily choosing what gets made, but guiding what gets made. It seemed like, hey, Dave, do you want your own Star Wars? You got a galaxy where you can just do what you want, unburdened by anything else. And we'll go over here and we'll make a movie with this person and that person. And Dave, go play. That's a business thought, but there's still a creative thought of, this is a wide open new galaxy. And why would we not really spend time planting the seeds of that, including keeping Ahsoka and Sabine there as the starter characters?
Yeah, I think it's intriguing, right? It'd be a big, brave, bold choice, but that's kind of what Dave has learned under the guy in flannel who made a lot of bold choices against what people expected or wanted. So a season of this and leading to others, and again, we know there's an intersection, right? We know we the advertisement for the Filoni Fest movie. I get it, but I understand and like what you're saying, Joseph. But you have an opportunity to do something kind of different, and the other things are part of the larger story. We know. So Thrawn, the Night Sisters, Bo-Katan, they'll all clash. It could happen, and it's important stuff. We just did the New Republic episode. I want to know more about the New Republic and what's going on in this timeline. But yeah, I'm with you. I think I'm fearful of the discourse, but confronting fear is the destiny of a Star Wars fan.
Exactly. I think the other thing for me, and then I will move on because I'm kind of obsessed on this point, is I feel like Ahsoka is often set up as an ultimate Jedi, a hero, a main hero. And the way that Ahsoka season 1 was set up to focus more on the horror of the possibility of Thrawn return, and Ahsoka having the epiphany that I could have focused more on the beauty of Ezra returning and this sort of implication that he's where he needs to be. In some ways, it feels like he is being set up as the hero of the Thrawn conflict. So it almost just feels like two headliners if Ahsoka comes back. And to me, it feels more narratively clean to have that's Ezra's fate. That's Ezra's battle to face Thrawn. Ahsoka's got something else that's been calling to her for a long time over here in this mystical land. And I think that's part of the reason that I am kind of fantasizing about at least Ahsoka not returning.
No, it makes a lot of sense. I know we want to move on here too,
Yeah.
But it makes a lot of sense because I think with Ahsoka returning in Mandalorian and saying, "Hey, where's Thrawn?" and oh my God, and that's kind of where our excitement went. But if you look at Star Wars canon now, Rebels, Hera and Ezra have a lot more beef with Thrawn right now. Ahsoka has this general overall correct beef with Thrawn coming back to be the heir of the Empire. So it's not far-fetched, at all.
All right. Well, we're gonna take a quick break, but first we have a recommendation. Ken?
Yeah, we do. We are doing our ForceCenter Recommends, an audiobook we think you should try out on us. And today it is, Ahsoka by E.K. Johnston. Check it out. It's a great story. It has a lot of Ahsoka prior to all this and her journey forward. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Once again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. All right, audio listeners and users, audio users, you get a break. But YouTube, you get to just stare at us for a second. And welcome back to ForceCenter here. We're taking a deep dive into a looking ahead to Ahsoka Season 2 now that it has been confirmed. Joseph, we are lost wonderfully in the wilderness of a new galaxy in Mortis, but where are we going to go from here?
Yeah, well, let's just get into the Mortis of it all. Fans have been talking about Mortis for a long time. That statue that Baylan is standing on, and then Ahsoka and Sabine in the new Filoni sketch. It appears to be an image of the father, the son, in a collapsed version of the daughter, missing, pointing to a destination in the distance. Some Star Wars fans are zooming in, and feeling a flash of light in the distance. Is that an entrance to Mortis? Is it the creation, the starting point of Mortis? All that. So if Baylan does indeed want to go to Mortis, let's start talking about the why. What do you truly believe he wants to accomplish in Mortis, Ken?
I kind of go to maybe looking at you said earlier, but Ahsoka's kind of this ultimate Jedi in a way, and you use that in a general sense to describe kind of her journey, which is I've always taken, it's my interpretation of what's it mean to be a Jedi, and she's about that, and it's sometimes, I don't mean this cynically, that she's more right than others. That's kind of sometimes what seems to happen, even our beloved Obi-Wan at times. But she's got that journey. What's it like to truly mean? What does this title mean? What do the duties mean? And I think he has that opposite path, the opposite path to the same destination, where he's asking what that meant. This is someone who started in the temple, who was there, who was fighting even alongside Ahsoka in theory. Whether he had met her or not doesn't matter. They're on the same team. And so for him to get this, I don't believe he starts a series thinking Mortis is possible, because he's a hired hand and doing this, it becomes available to him, right? It's this option in front of him, is how I've always read it. That's those long stairs that Rey was so good at. So I think there's a pure intention from his point of view, as you're saying, Jen, earlier. It might be revealed more and more to him that he's also the villain in the story. Maybe he doubles down on that. But I think it is some sort of I'm going to achieve not just balance, but I'm going to show you all the right way to use all these powers. And that's what's drawn him closer, that this is that everything. This is the power beyond what he's trying to explain to Shin.
Jennifer, how do you feel about Baylan's arc and ultimately his motivation, what he wants out of Mortis?
Oh, you can hear the trash truck going by. It's really noisy at my house today.
Throw the trash truck driver some pirate booty. You'll be all right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So I one of the things about Balin that made him such an interesting character was I kind of didn't really know what he wanted. He was very cryptic to me. Something's calling to him. What is calling to him, right? Does he want to achieve balance? Does he unknowingly, is the dark side calling him? Does he want power? Does he want destruction? I have no idea. And that's what I think is going to be really interesting to explore. There's some speculation that the mother, Abeloth, this is what I saw on Reddit. This is where I go down the wormhole, that Abeloth was calling to him, and Abeloth would partner with him, give him immense power. That's actually very, very intriguing. I like that idea. I don't know. I think that there's so much to explore and play with, and anything. I just want to learn more, basically, because I felt like I didn't really understand kind of what he wanted.
Look, yeah, when Jen dives into Reddit, we need to tie like a rope around her. Just make sure we can pull her back.
Get her back out. Yeah,
this is good.
Yeah, the Abeloth stuff is fascinating, because I think anything is possible. Filoni does seem really interested in respecting the EU and in trying to take a new take on it. I know some EU fans don't think he's respecting it, but I think he intends it as, I love these stories, and I will make them fit into the sort of the modern canon and Lucas philosophy. I also don't think it's past him to dangle clues just to Mephisto people. If people remember WandaVision, everybody expected Mephisto, and in some circles online, it has now become almost a verb for when fans pick up the scent of something and are just obsessed with it. I think it's possible that Filoni could, Mephisto people and just get them to look for Abeloth in the shadows. Who knows? The thing for me about Baylan is I think he's clear on what he wants, is the way I read it. I think that he has partnered with Morgan with the knowledge that what she wants to do is go to this other place, that he's aware of the sort of the content of the Night Sisters' dreams. Like, you think I'm your hired hand, but I know hitching a ride with you will take me to the place of the childhood stories where I believe this power is, if the power is correct. And I think he does say a lot of cryptic things. I think he says some contradictory things because he is lying to himself, in my opinion. In particular, I think he is coming from the perspective of this is an endless cycle of violence. I was made to be a part of it in the Clone Wars. I'm disgusted by it. The Jedi claim that they are defenders of life, but everything for them is an opportunity to fight. That's what happened to Anakin. He passed that bloodlust on to Ahsoka. When she is in her darkest place and does, pull out her blade, is the first. Of course, I'm going to have to fight Baylan to get this map back from him and to stop Thrawn from returning. he's got that line about like, how predictable. So he's seems to have this strong sort of vision that there is this cycle of violence, but then he has sort of put an asterisk around himself and said, and of course, in order for me to stop the cycle of violence, I have to assume total control and power and use violence. Like, it's too bad I can't walk the path of the Jedi, and to further this great good that I have a vision of, I got to slaughter all these people on this New Republic ship. Asterisk around me. It's okay that I do the violence, but what I'm mad about is that the Jedi did the violence. So I think that's like a purposeful contradiction of a character wrestling. I think I looked it up this morning because I think he gets pretty close to being clear with Shin toward the end. I think it's in like episode 6, where she's kind of talking to him about, it's weird to be in this new place. You lost everything you knew in the Jedi Temple. It's the time where he says, as you get older, you look at history and realize it's all inevitable. He talks about the cycle of violence between the Jedi and the Empire. And she talks about, and now it's going to be our turn in the cycle. We're going to get the power. And he's like, that the kind of power Thrawn wants is fleeting. And he says, what I seek is the beginning.
Right.
So I may finally bring this cycle to an end. Yeah. So, and then I think he lets Shin go because he's trying to train her to do this with him. And then he's seeing her ambition, and he's just going like, you're so far away from this Zen place that I am in of the end justifies the means. And it's not about power. It's about doing this, about bringing the cycle to an end. And so he cuts her loose. But where that leaves for me, and in my personal interpretation, is that I think he's seen Mortis as this huge, powerful means to an end. I kind of think or hope he's going to do something weird and drastic, or think he can with the power of Mortis. We're told in the Clone Wars episodes that the family of Force users were beings who used the Force who became so powerful they couldn't exist in the normal galaxy, and they go to this place, Mortis, establish this place called Mortis. I think there's some ambiguity there, and use it as a conduit through which the Force is balanced. And then it becomes out of balance, and the galaxy gets worse and all that. But if it is like, if he believes it, and the old stories say it's a conduit of the Force, everything flows through there. I wonder if he's like, I'm going to go shut it down. I'm going to turn the Force off. Or if all the Force flows through it and anything can happen, I'm going to reset time. We're going to do this all again. Or I'm going to use the massive force of Mortis and make it so like nobody actually can commit violence. I kind of hope that he's going to do so, wants to seize the power of Mortis to just do something drastic and weird to stop all conflict, which to me it then becomes this great story of like, Star Wars preaches pacifism, but conflict and change are a part of our nature, and you can't just stop all of them, all of it. Sorry for going on for a while. This is the most fascinating thing to me of where season 2 could go with Baylan as what is he trying to do, and why does Ahsoka want to stop it? Ken?
I like the idea because I envision him as flying too close to the sun, is how I wrote it down, of whatever he tries to do. It's not exactly the same, but I'm just going to the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark of, let's do it. We got to open up this Ark, make sure it's working right for the Fjord. We got this great power. Oh God, we're dead. Like this is, and him having a moment like that where it could be just big, fantastical. What you're talking about of a big reset button, right? of that's not how to do it. I think Star Wars, I think that's a lot of stuff going on with Kylo Ren and Last Jedi, right? That's the, just destroy the past. Don't take any of it forward. Start all over. And we can't do that. You have to learn from the past. You have to grow with the past. You have to intersect the two, the new and the old, all those things we love going back to, and that he could stand in the way of that. Because it seems all great. And this goes to the comments of Ray saying, Dave and I had to bicker and banter over if I was the villain or not. And that means as an actor, he's finding the core of this character. That's why it works so well. His energy is so present. His energy is 3 feet in front of him every scene. It's so clear that he's, you're right. I think the breakdown of the Shin thing, as we called it, the coach cutting the player and saying, you're ready, whether she thinks it or not, speaks to him finding a righteous reason to go use this power, and I love that. And it could be giant, fantastic. A lot of lightning. I'm seeing a lot of lightning happening.
A lot of weird space orbs floating around. Yeah, I think what is compelling about him, and I think why he had those conversations with Dave, is I think his motivation is good. Of I want to stop the cycle of violence. Like, great,
Right.
all of our heroes do, but then there's that question of balance of doing the right thing is hard, and there are many things to navigate. Like, in some ways, if he said, I'm going to go to Mortis and I'm just going to, through the will of the Force, all of the Force is flowing through me, and I'm going to use my will so that literally no being in the galaxy can raise their hand in violence. Like, well, that sounds beautiful, but wait, now you're taking all agency and control away from people. And, I can imagine a sort of philosophical perspective where Ahsoka is like, I agree with you. The goal should be to eradicate violence, but we need to do it in this long, hard work, complicated way by bringing people together, by building empathy. We can't just enforce it on people. It gets into, to me, really interesting ideas. Jen, how do you feel about Baylan using Mortis to do something big and weird and drastic?
I think it makes a lot more sense now. What you both are presenting is that he does feel like he's on this righteous path. That's what makes him such an interesting character, because he's not the twirling the mustache type of villain. So that will be interesting. What happens when he gets there? The confrontation I'm sure Ahsoka will have with him about what he is doing. And I don't know about like the in and outs, like the possibility of the son showing up or my daughter showing up in this YouTube. Yeah, okay. Excuse me, I'm gonna mute myself. Carry on. Carry on.
Okay. Yes. For audio listeners, this is great old school vaudeville comedy. Yeah. Just child's limbs popping into the screen.
I love it.
So Ken, let's get into the Ahsoka Mortis connection, one of the biggest things of season 2, and things that people have been talking about for a very, very long time. It's long been theorized that Ahsoka is going to end up in Mortis. And often, Ken, I feel like when we have that conversation as a community, and sometimes when we have it here on ForceCenter, it's about the puzzle pieces. It's about the, hey, yeah, she died in Mortis, and then the daughter gave her some of her life, and then Morai, the convoy, is connected to it. So those are the clues. And the clues are great, and they're interesting, they're powerful, and they're important. But what I'm interested in talking about is, if Ahsoka ends up in Mortis, what is meaningful about that? What could she accomplish? How would that complete her character arc over these decades of storytelling?
Yeah, you make me think of back in the day, and by that I mean the end of season 5, even season 7, and just the discourse always around the discussion. I shouldn't say discourse, seems rather negative, but the discussion around Ahsoka ends up there, a puzzle piece, meaning like let's just put it all together. You got Anakin, you got this and that, and it's fun speculation. But the why of it, for me, I go to what I've always, again, my interpretation of a lot of her path is what does it mean to be a Jedi? And she represents not just the light. She's not the only one representing light, but there's just something pure about her, and what the daughter did for her represents a lot of what I think Ahsoka is about, or is trying to be about, and whether or not she ends up on that statue on the mountain, that it transforms suddenly into Ahsoka's face. It just seems to now more than ever a natural conclusion of what this character has always just been asking about. What's the best way to go around this galaxy, or this other galaxy now, or all the galaxies, to help people, to use this power, and that she would complete that, and hopefully true balance. Now I'm just thinking of puzzles. Is Baylan the father? Is Baylan the son? Is this finally when we get Sam Witwer showing up again? That's one of those things people love to speculate on. I think it'll happen one day, what character we'll see. But that's just where I start to go with her character being there, and the why of it on Mortis.
Yeah, I think for me, the why of it is, I agree, and we've talked about a lot in our Clone Wars reports in particular, that I think Ahsoka is a real symbol of the light. There is that direct connection with the daughter. But I think, when she walks away from the Jedi Order, she isn't walking away from the Jedi. She is staying true to her Jedi ideals, because the Jedi have veered from them. And she is, lost in the wilderness trying to define for herself what it means to be a Jedi, but she's always had it. She is naturally compassionate. naturally balanced. I think there's so much in the Clone Wars animated show that shows that she and Anakin are aligned in their utter compassion for other people, but Ahsoka finds ways, even in her dark times in season 1 of Ahsoka, to not let it curdle fully into, the dark side. It's just compassion. She's balanced. She's selfless. So I think there's a sort of a symbol of the light thing, and the statue face of the daughter being gone is just almost like if a television show could have clickbait within itself, that I feel like that was Filoni saying, write an article about this, guys, everybody have fun with that. What's interesting to me about her ending up in Mortis is an examination, like you said, Ken, of what does it mean to be a Jedi, but specifically for Ahsoka and her role, honestly, in Star Wars. She started out as a child, literally as a daughter character, and there's a power to me that as we've seen her now become an adult, we have seen her face the trauma and the gifts bestowed upon her by her father figure Anakin, and is now moving past those. There's an interest to me of her becoming not the daughter of Mortis, but the mother of Mortis. And that she could transform fully in the years that we've spent with her, from the child to the adult to the patron, the mother of Mortis, the adult, the adult in the Force. Mortis's role is it's spiritual and murky, but according to the Mortis arc, it is to help keep balance. And I think there's a suggestion that because Anakin didn't take up what the father asked him to do, that the balance in Mortis disappearing allowed the dark side to increase even more. So this idea that Ahsoka would be, this child who becomes the mother, who is the guardian at the gate, who helps mystically keep everything in balance, is it's a great commentary on not just on the character, but on the Jedi beliefs being spiritual, not the letter of the law, and also wrestling with Star Wars' long history of being a father-based show. We've got more mothers. Leia's role as a mother was elevated to a little bit more mythical level in Rise of Skywalker, I think. But talk about really raising the role and the idea of what is mother to a mystical level. To have Ahsoka end up being the mother is really powerful and interesting to me. Jennifer, you're a mom.
I just keep thinking of like the when you call someone like mother, like the compliment, as opposed to like the actual being a mother. This is where I think about, are they going to, because we know what's going to happen. We know it's got to end. Her journey's got to end, but kind of live on, but like her physical journey, right? So like you're saying, Joseph, like this cloud has been hanging over her ever since she was introduced to us fans. We're like, her end is coming at some point. So is it going to end in this show? Are they going to set it up for the movie? Because that would be a pretty cinematic moment, right? To see her transcending and becoming the mother, be beautiful, poignant tears from all of us in the movie theater of the ending of this character, right? I don't know. Because if you put it in this show, well, then that means that maybe the movie is going to be more about the New Republic and Thrawn and Ezra and blah, 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 blah. Nobody will be wondering whether or not she's going to appear. Or it could be your way to get people to the movie theater, like see the conclusion of Ahsoka in this movie. I don't know. That's a story thing, but I know Dave has so much love for the character of Ahsoka. He's going to want to do right by that character.
Yeah, I think the pull to have her on the big screen might be powerful. So maybe we are not heading toward the long predicted end game of Ahsoka, but maybe this is a step on the path as she interacts more with Mortis and maybe comes to accept this is where I need to be and I will get there eventually. But I got a movie to do first, or narratively, I'm needed, but I know this is where I'm going, and I know this is where I'm heading. Ken, I want to get you in here. Just want to say one more thing real quick of, when Ahsoka showed up, the voice in Rise of Skywalker, and when Rey hears all the voices of the Jedi that have come before. And I think Filoni gave some sort of quote about maybe she's dead, maybe she's not, which for me has always been like, I feel this character is fated to end up as some sort of guardian at the gate, in a, not just a Force spirit. But one of the things that excites me about it is this idea of can we see in a palpable way what is different because Ahsoka, daughter, mother, whatever, Ahsoka is in Mortis? Is it through Ahsoka that Rey is able to hear the voices of all the Jedi who have come before? Is that something palpable Ahsoka is doing? Or if she does, sort of become one with Mortis in the show, is there something more that is possible through the Force that Ezra can do because he has guidance from Ahsoka's act of sacrifice, balancing Mortis, that kind of thing? Ken, where do you go with the whether or not this season will bring her fully into a Mortis role, and how to make that palpable?
I got scooper spies who are hiding in dumpsters at the Burbank Disney offices and up in Marin County. And they tell me that the Filoni's movie is called Star Wars, The Ascension of Ahsoka. That's what they're calling it. I'm kidding.
Oh man, I was going, what? Tell me more. We can talk about this off air if you want.
I got people hiding in parking structures, taking pictures of Dave's folders as he walks in to the office.
His doodles.
His doodles. But I think this is where it's hard to separate the business from the show here, right? You can't tell me that Dave's like, finally, I got a movie, and I don't mean this like he's some finally, but he's just like, I got a movie. Yeah, Ahsoka's going to be a big part of that movie. It'd be weird not to. And yeah, the Rise of Skywalker thing hangs over some of it. That cheeky Dave quote, because there's always a cheeky Dave quote somewhere. To me, was that what you're talking about, Joseph? A world of possibilities, but also a little bit of like, well, JJ never asked me, so. He just put the voice in. Yeah. But that's fun. That's reality because we have a perceived endpoint. So in terms of making it palpable, I really love what you're saying, going back to the start of this conversation or this section with the mother of it all, because going even to the puzzle of Mortis, we think the father, the son, and the daughter. And the daughter's head is off. But if the father's dead, there's a job opening. And there's nothing that says it has to be those roles to me. And that even if she slides into that broken statue's position to fulfill what you're talking about, to transition it to the mother, the son, the daughter, and who knows what else, it's wide open. The Force flies. It could be anything. That does kind of make sense. And in some ways, I understand, especially if you're not a giant Ahsoka fan, and I do know some folks that still aren't, and that's fair. It's your right to do so. This might be Dave's precious character getting the number one spot on the Star Wars depth chart. Like, she's the mother of it all. But we don't know what that means. You're raising some great questions of what you could do with that, Joseph. And again, I pulled out the old ForceCenter Speculate Responsibly t-shirt, still available on TeePublic.
I might need to be wearing a couple more of those because I need to speculate responsibly.
But it's part of the fun, part of how when we stumbled on that term of you get excited. I'm still excited about seeing Keller and Beck in a Mandalorian Grogu movie, and who knows if that'll happen. I had lunch with a friend last week, and he's like, I don't know about this movie. I was like, let me tell you why it's exciting.
Yes.
So Alex was referencing your ideas in his Q&A episode this week, like Star Wars Explained. So yeah, anyways, trying to break it all back down. I think it could be big and epic if it's done in the movie. If this is the ascension, that's Prophet being called home, almost, if you will, it would just make some sort of sense. It would be giant. But now we're wildly speculating that I even forget where I was going.
Yeah, no, it is utter speculation, and I think for me, I have to recognize when I have a sort of pull toward a desire of what I think would be cool, what I want, and also being open entirely to being able to let it go. It's great Jedi training to watch Star Wars, because I think you're both right. I think there's every possibility that Ahsoka is a huge key factor in the Filoni movie, and she will go to Mortis, but she is nowhere near her end. And Dave wants to do 5 seasons of Ahsoka if he can. I think for me, as a fan and as a storyteller, I have this longing for closure. And Ahsoka's been headed to Mortis in ways for years and years and years. There's a part of me that feels like part of the beauty of Star Wars is just because we see how a character ends does not mean we're done telling stories about them. Does not mean we're done learning new things about them. Kenobi and Maul both died in their first appearance, and we have learned more and more about them, and we still have great stories to be told. We saw Han become a star, literally, in Force Awakens. We're not done telling Han Solo stories. So there's a part of me that feels like I would like to see. I have such a desire to see Ahsoka's journey completed, but just because we see where she ends, that does not mean we're done telling stories and learning about her. And I think there's a part of me that's almost sort of like craving that piece, that it's not all about the end. It's we got a drawing, we got a doodle from Dave, literally pointing to her fate. And there's a part of me that's like, let's stop playing footsie with her fate and see it.
Footsie with their fate. That's the name of the movie. Yeah, look, Dave said for years, like, I've got these stories. I'm getting to tell these stories. And I'm excited about all the world of possibilities around this character. But I'm excited for him to get to maybe get to the end. Again, and you're right, the stories can go on. Look, eventually Dave is going to want to retire, move back to Pittsburgh, open up a hockey bar called Yinzers and enjoy his life. Like, maybe that now sees an opportunity to land some of these characters and stories.
Let's speculate responsibly. Those are a lot of details about what you want out of Filoni's retirement.
Go down to Yinzers, watch the Penguins. You get a Ahsoka drink special. Go to Yinzers and that.
Mother of Mortis Mai Tai. That's right.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what I mean? Just outside of even our speculation, like, I'm excited for him. This is a character he's held near and dear for so long, and I think it should be big. And I will say this: I even looking at the movie, this is why I'm excited and like the idea of Ezra being kind of positioned as in opposition of Thrawn, as well as the New Republic, and as well as Hera and Jason Syndulla as well. Might as well throw him in there. And why the final fight to me in that movie, if there is one, is not a fist fight between Ahsoka and Thrawn. That doesn't make a lot of sense for me right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Final thing I'll say about the whole Mortis thing is I think, such a big part of that arc was the father reaching out to Anakin, because, only he could balance it, because he has he has the potential for light and dark, and so much that is demonstrating that he has power over both the light and the dark. And to me, there's a power kind of spiritually in that Ahsoka is not his literal biological daughter, but she is sort of the daughter of the chosen one, and she has wrestled with everything that Anakin has wrestled with, feared that dark side. I think maybe in a couple moments embraced that dark side. She hasn't fallen, but maybe she's made some choices that are a little bit more dancing with it. So there's something powerful to me about saying, she has the experience in the life by being connected to Anakin, that she could fill that role of balance. That's such a big part of that story. What does that mean? All right, there are other characters in Ahsoka besides Ahsoka, so let's talk about them. Like Sabine. Jen, what do you think Sabine's journey in this season could be? What is her emotional challenge, and could it intersect with Shin hotties?
This is my emotional challenge, because I really love the character of Sabine. I love the first few episodes of Ahsoka with Sabine. And then when she became her apprentice, I had a little bit of difficulty with that storyline, as I've articulated before. So I wrestle with this. And, StarWars.com, in that announcement, they called her and her apprentice, Sabine Wren. This story is going to be about their relationship, master, apprentice. It's going to be about Sabine just struggling with self-doubt, trying to, tap into her powers, feeling frustrated. And it's hard for me as a Rebels fan, because in Rebels, she was a badass, and she was a Mandalorian, she was a warrior, and she's artsy, and she just really felt like her own individual. And what I struggle with is in Ahsoka, she doesn't feel as much of an individual. It feels like her identity is so tied to Ahsoka's. And I know that that's a story that they're trying to tell. It's just hard for me. This is where I'm wrestling with it. And I'm sure season 2, it will be great and I'll love it. And maybe we'll get to learn more about Shin Hati, because I think she's a really cool character, and she's very enigmatic as well. But yeah, I don't know. I wrestle with this one.
Well, let me throw out this Star Wars counseling potential. And I could absolutely be wrong, but it's what I took from Ahsoka season 1 with the storytelling with Sabine. That Ahsoka's got that one line where she says to Huyang, "I'm not trying to get her to be a Jedi. I'm trying to get her to be herself."
Right.
This is definitely me interpreting what's there. It's interpreting the text. I don't think the text is super crystal clear in analyzing it. But what I enjoy about Sabine's journey is she's not doing great in training. She can't move the cup to move the cup. The Force comes to her when she is in the throes of battle and
right.
action and forward movement. And you can be negative about it, of like, she can only use the Force to fight. And I don't mean it that way. I mean that a warrior can be somebody who gets up in the morning when they have every reason not to. I think that's who she is. She is a warrior. She is a fighter. She is a Mandalorian by nature. Everything that you're describing, Jen, I really love about the character. And I feel like there were seeds in Ahsoka's season 1 that make me hope that those seeds will grow into a story of, we're not trying to make you Qui-Gon Jinn, Sabine.
Right.
That isn't who you are. You're an artist. You're a fighter. You like to literally make your mark with a bomb or a paint can. And you're only going to be able to tap into the Force and to help people and to be selfless when you're a very vibrant, engaged person attacking a problem. That's how you're going to find your balance. And here's this other person that we don't know super well in Shin Hati, but seems to have that same temperament of like, Shin Hati just seems like she's growling at the world, that there's just a thunderstorm roiling inside of her. And we don't know her backstory. We don't know why, but it seems like she might be wrestling with that same sort of like, I'm young and I'm confused and I'm traumatized. And the only thing that makes sense to me is forward motion. So like, how could these two kind of tortured characters come together and have a friends to enemies or friends to lovers story and find balance in each other, as well as in accepting a sort of more tempestuous nature? Does that make any sense to you, Jen?
Yeah, 100%. I like that. I like that story. And I think really seeing her Sabine coming into her own, feeling some sort of confidence, a little bit, seeing more of her confidence, I think I would enjoy that. Because that's what I enjoyed about the animated character so much, is that she was so headstrong, but in a positive way of saying, this is who I am. This is, take it or leave it. So I don't know. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get that in season 2.
It feels like she has room to explore herself because she's not worried about Ezra. She's on the path. Now what's she going to do? And what are your thoughts?
No, so it's wonderful stuff. And I'll start. I echo a little bit, Jen, with you on. I think I connected with the Sabine less in this show, from presentation to performance, and there was just some issues I stumbled upon, tripped up on the pathway. But I think this is and one of the reasons is because it was one of my favorite characters of Rebels, and it wasn't like it was a unintentional step back, like the Dave or the team wasn't aware that we're taking Sabine to this area that's somewhat familiar. I think of the Trials of the Darksaber. It's a little bit about trying to break through to find out who she really is. And I think, Joseph, I like what you're saying. To break it down to a real world thing for me, it's like when I fail as a comic, it's because I'm on stage trying to be a stand-up comedian. But when I succeed, it's because I'm on stage being me. And I just happen to have the mic there. And I think I see a little bit of that journey in her separated from Ezra and accepting I wanted to get him home with me, right? This was where we go. And I gave that up. And now I'm here. And look, I'll even say it down to a real simple level. If she's a Jedi in this new realm, and a lot of people around her, including the naughty noti, don't even really fully understand what a Jedi is, she gets to kind of redefine that in her own terms, in her own way. And that could be part of the journey. And I absolutely agree. Her and Shin are connected in so many ways. If you want to ship them, you can ship them. If they're friends, if they're enemies, and they're connected in the fact that one might end the other, that could be it too. Without a doubt, I think they are at times two sides of the coin. And look, you design Shin to look like that. She looks like the front woman of a Ukrainian death metal band. She's got to have a lot of anger. She's got to have a lot of anger in there. And we've seen over time, Sabine's got a lot of anger in her. It makes a lot of sense. They're connected in this landscape that is undefined, even for us as fans, right? We don't know where the coffee shop is on Peridia, but we know where it is on Coruscant. It's Dex's Diner. And it's an open road for her to find herself as she moves forward as a Jedi now.
Yeah, I love everything you're saying, including the Ukrainian death bands. Shin absolutely does have a front in a band vibe. I think this is part of the reason that, as much as I want to know more about Thrawn, Night Sisters, Ezra, New Republic, that I feel like there's so much story here in this new galaxy, and what you're tapping into of what does it mean to be a Jedi in this new galaxy, where we don't know what the powers are or what they have been in this new galaxy. And there is an opportunity, and I don't mean this is a gray Jedi of like, they're Jedi who get to be violent. I don't think that's the philosophy that Dave Filoni is interested in. But how empowering to feel like I come from this legacy of powerhouse Jedi, and I don't quite believe in myself. I need to tap into it in a different way, in a way that the traditional Jedi Order would frown on. Now I'm in a new land, and I get to make the shots, call the shots of what it means to be a Force user in this world. And with Shin, like, that's a fascinating story. If Ahsoka does end up in Mortis land, and Sabine's fate is to be the new Jedi here, it's fascinating to me. Jen, any other Sabine thoughts?
You guys have no idea what is going on in my house. For those of you who are watching YouTube, my daughter is now vlogging in the kitchen. I've explained now is not the time to vlog or do a tutorial video on how to make a smoothie, which is going to happen. So just stay tuned.
Look, I need to know how to make a good smoothie. I fail, so I'll be tuning in.
Well, your daughter starts vlogging, and the apprentice becomes the master. So
exactly. I got to take her powers away. The phone.
All right, let's talk about the most important part of Ahsoka season 2, which it's shameful it took us this long to get to. Are droids allowed in Mortis, Ken? And if not, what is Huyang's fate?
They aren't allowed in Mortis, but go with me here. Huyang has been around for thousands upon thousands of years, right? Almost the beginning. Inside of him, and I don't even know if he knows it, is the key to Mortis. The literal key. It has to open up. It's glowing. And if he gives the key up, he dies. He's never to be brought back again. And this is his destiny, to allow them into Mortis. He can't go in, as 3PO wonders in Rise of Skywalker, if this is the afterlife, are droids even allowed? Huyang is, that's, I think, his destiny. I might be completely off here.
Yeah, I hope he just gets to continue being a lightsaber professor in Sabine's new order. Who knows? But I love Huyang so much, and I think he was used so well in Ahsoka season 1, and I think he's positioned for not just great character moments. I love that he's your cranky, lovable grandpa who's got good guidance and sass for you at the same time.
Yep.
And I think he was used that way really well in Ahsoka season 1. But now, as the holder of the stories that now appear to be based in much more truth than maybe even Huyang believed when he first had the stories programmed into him. But he's been telling them for years and years and years. I think he's going to be a charming, hilarious exposition machine, because he knows the stories. And maybe there is a story about what you have to feel in your heart to pass through the gate on Peridia. And, there could be a lot of that beautiful kind of stuff. Jen, what are your...
Answer me these questions 3.
There's a high path, a low path, and a middle path into Mortis. What are your Huyang hopes for Ahsoka season 2?
To see him going, okay, bye-bye, I'll be here. I would like to see a 3PO Ewoks relationship where he is, and the king or whatever, the god of the Noties.
Oh.
and they listen to all of his many stories around a campfire. They lift him up in the air. I want to see that.
I love that he's got them carving sticks, and he's teaching them all the lightsaber forms, and they're just this little turtle army poking people's shins.
Little montage.
Not the character shin, but people's actual shins. Yeah, that's amazing.
Shins.
Oh, I can't wait. So, Ken, we've talked around this, but it's, I think, a big question for Ahsoka season 2. Do you want more of Peridia to be explored, or more of this galaxy in general? We're talking so much about Mortis. The sketch is literally pointing us to Mortis, we assume. But we're on a brand new planet in a brand new galaxy. Do you want that to be explored?
I do, to a certain degree. I think I'd be fine with it just being Peridia, but that's a big planet, and we got some marauders and pirates and ne'er-do-wells there, and through Shin's eyes, maybe we could explore that a little bit more. I don't need there to be some sort of spaceport or city center or something like that, but knowing a little bit more of the hows and the whys and the what's going out there, just is interesting to me. It's good context, and especially if we're talking about, all right, so Sabine's a Jedi in this world. What does that even mean? Who's there to benefit from it? Who there needs it? Is she just riding around with the turtle folk, keeping them safe? No, I think it's more than that. So I think the planet existing begs us to want more exploration. Whether or not I need an entire new map of 17 planets and all this stuff, and one's a water planet, one's a snow planet. Maybe in this galaxy there's different weather regions on the planet. Maybe that'd be great. I don't know if I need that, but I do want. Yeah, I want to know a little bit more. It'd be a wasted opportunity to me to not explore.
Yeah, I mean, I like your joke about a spaceport, because my reading of Peridia is it's like an Ilum or an Octo or a Moraband. It's a force powerful planet that is, it's not on the beaten path within that galaxy. Is the vibe I'm getting from Peridia. So maybe there is more to be explored. Obviously, I think there is a lot more to be explored. I don't think those are the only factions of Marauders, a Night Sister tomb. There's the implication that the Night Sisters ruled over the power on this planet, and it was a terrifying power, which sounds to me like maybe the Night Sisters have interacted and abused the powers of Mortis or the powers of the planet, and so there's some fun nightmares to be explored there. I think there's a lot. I mean, I really feel the possibility of Filoni's Lord of the Rings love that he brings into Star Wars, and that Ahsoka Season 2 could be the march to Mordor through different communities impacted by the legacy of evil kind of thing. And I'm also with you that I don't need Ahsoka and Sabine to jet off and do the visual tour of the new galaxy.
Right.
But I think this is a massive opportunity to show what is different in this galaxy, given what's at stake. That Baylan is upset about the cycle of violence in the galaxy we know. Has that been true here? Have there been endless wars? Are there still Force users? Is there an imperial authoritarian? What are the powers in this galaxy? I think having a little sense of what, if that galaxy's journey has mirrored the one we know or has been vastly different, that seems like it actually matters to Baylan's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of possibilities. There could be some sort of warlord now that the Night Sisters, the grandmothers, are gone. He has a chance to regain some power. There could be a lot of on the ground, in the streets kind of stories there on this planet, spaceport or not.
Yeah. Jennifer, we here on the YouTube side can see that you needed to step away to deal with a vlogging crisis in the kitchen. We've been talking about exploring more of Peridia or of this new galaxy. Are you interested in that in this season of Ahsoka?
I am interested because it's my kids want to make a smoothie. This is what we're the brawl that was happening in the kitchen between the children. I'll quickly say this. I would love to see some flashback scenes of Peridia kind of in its prime, seeing the Witch Kingdom. I find really fascinating because it looks so barren. So I want to see more like mystical elements. Yes, exactly. This is devolving here. So yeah, I want to see more rather than just kind of like rocky formations.
I love talking about the geography, but I also love your point of flashback. That's absolutely great. And if you need to deal with anything, we certainly don't want to hold you with Star Wars questions.
No, I'll quickly go handle the smoothie. I'll be back.
Okay, sounds good. So Ken, as we head toward wrapping up this episode, looking at the heart of Ahsoka Season 2, what's at stake for the characters, all that. There's the timeline thing to talk about. I kind of think we might not see Ahsoka Season 2 until around 2026. If, Filoni, I'm sure, has ideas. Maybe he's been tinkering with scripts, but there's still a lot of production to get up. And there is still also the spoken Iger concerns about too much Star Wars. We have at least this year Skeleton Crew. We have Bad Batch. We have the Acolyte, which means 2025. We have Andor. How are you feeling about when Ahsoka might materialize?
2026 seems safe to me, and I want to point out, even I mentioned earlier, like we got Mandalorian and Grogu, and the next thing up after that might be Mandalorian Season 4. That's wrong of me to even completely assume as correct, right? Like this could be, everything could be moved around at this point, and it makes a lot of sense. But Ahsoka 2026, timeline wise, makes sense. Filoni's movie 2027. You know, if you like playing that kind of big board of dates, that makes a lot of sense. And there's a lot of time between there, and I think we'll focus on Acolyte and wrap up Bad Batch and/or coming back. There's a lot there to hold me over, but there's some big questions, especially even after this episode, that are burning inside me in a way I didn't know. Yeah, it's not just my back pain burning. I've got some Mortis questions.
I'm really, really excited for Ahsoka season 2. The more we get to talk about it.
Yeah,
Jen, we were talking a little bit about when Ahsoka might actually appear in our lives. Do you feel like 2-ish years, 2026? Does that seem reasonable to you, or do you think it could be sooner?
I mean, I think it's going to be two-ish years. The question is, how do you keep the momentum going for Ahsoka? And that's the business side of it, right? So like Star Wars Celebration, I think could be a big moment where they bring Rosario Dawson on stage, Dave Filoni, maybe, I don't know if they would have a clip ready, right? Maybe they show some concept art. This is what I find interesting. Anytime Dave Filoni releases a sketch, before it used to be like on Twitter, but now on StarWars.com, the fans go crazy. So if he can just keep releasing sketches for the next couple years, that will satiate the fans. And gives us literally, like, it sets off the comments and so many YouTube videos about it. What does this mean?
If he just wore a T-shirt that said "daughter?" that would be months of hype for In the Bubble Star Wars fans, right?
Exactly. That's all we need.
And then he peels it off, and it says "Mother!" exclamation.
What? Yeah. So if we, have to go back to the classic old Star Wars waiting, many people absolutely loved Ahsoka, their favorite Star Wars thing. I'm sure just salivating for the season 2. If we all do have to wait up to 2 years, Ken, what are the dreams and hopes that you're clinging to? What are you ultimately most excited about?
In terms of waiting in that time period?
Or just what's going to fill your imagination when you're brushing your teeth and your mind wanders to Ahsoka season 2 over the next however long?
Gotcha.
Where does your mind go?
It goes to the big final answer or the next big chapter in Ahsoka's existence. We're tracking Dave through the years and this character's so-called endings. I'm excited about that, and to maybe get the next phase and to get some big questions answered about. We say Mortis, and that's because it's that arc, but that arc is it comes up so many times, not just here in ForceCenter, but it's just conversations. If you talk to someone, have you seen the Clone Wars? Eventually, within 3 sentences, Mortis seems to come up, good or bad. And so to get that back into this level, and don't forget it pops up in Rebels, right? And with what's his name, Hyde, and finding some clues on it there. It's around, it's there, it's in Dave's mind, and it's a big answer and a big reveal. So I'll be wondering about that, the Mortis of it all, indeed.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. How about you, Jennifer?
Same thing. I immediately, that's why I was going down the Reddit rabbit hole, just because I love that arc. I'm going to go back, I'm going to rewatch it and speculate. But I think that there can be so many questions that are answered. It's just that's why people talk about it, because it's just such a fascinating thing about Star Wars, a fascinating storyline. It seems a little bit like the weird side of Star Wars, which we've talked about. So that's what I'll be thinking about.
Yeah, definitely Mortis, since that's literally what Filoni's picture seems to be pointing at. Maybe not. maybe that's a statue of the father saying, "Get out." That's the portal to go back to your galaxy.
Yeah,
get out.
Yeah, get out.
That would be a great twist.
Stay out of the Wool Wars.
And don't go into the world between worlds either. Are they the same thing? I don't know. Get off my back. I hope that we just really get to drill down and just spend super, super quality time with Ahsoka and Sabine as they take the next steps on their journey. I think I enjoyed Ahsoka season 1, and I think their emotional arcs were complete for what they were going through, but now they are set up to kind of have to really face this next step. And so I'm thinking a lot about who Sabine's going to become, how she is going to find confidence in being a Jedi. And one little thing that I had a hard time letting go of and hoped for in Ahsoka season 1 is I would love some clarity on Ahsoka's experience during the Galactic Civil War. because I think some fans have theories that they're pretty attached to, but my reading is that it is inconclusive. We don't know exactly where when she steps out of that portal in the world between worlds and goes back to Moraband. Was she marooned on Moraband for years and didn't get off until after the Galactic Civil War? Was she traipsing back through the world between worlds, going on a weird spiritual journey? Did she walk out of that portal and it was, from her perspective, 6 years later and the Galactic Civil War is over? And most importantly for me, it's about the character. Did she miss the Galactic Civil War and feels badly that she could not contribute in stopping her fallen master and in stopping what she failed? Or was she like, I just fought a war. Good luck. I'm out. That's important to me for her character.
It is, and it's a big question too. And I like I like what you're saying about poof, she was gone, she comes back, and what happened type of vibe that would I'm not looking to give an Ahsoka an excuse, but hey, she's got to answer some questions about where were you. I think that's fair. That's fair. If she's on Neamos having pizzos and just checked out for a little bit, fair enough. That's the answer. But yeah, having that kind of revealed in its right appropriate time would be fun.
Yeah, and I get that I have preached patience and I want to have patience, and I feel like I've had patience about that Ahsoka question for a long time, and it's one that I feel is really intriguing and vital to her character, and I would love to get that answer someday. Any final thoughts on Ahsoka season 2?
For me, this is I've said before, the show that I walked away having a little bit more questions and slight problems with, whatever that means to you out there. But this is the power of Star Wars. It's looking ahead. You have a chance to continue these characters, and I love them all, and I'm intrigued. It's not just about Baylan and his beard. There's so much there on the table for this series and these questions, and to have a creator getting the opportunity, someone like Filoni who loves this passionately. I'm excited about him getting the opportunity because that's going to benefit all of us as fans.
Yeah. Jennifer?
I would love to see Hera struggling as I was today with juggling multiple things as a parent.
It's so real.
Right? I mean, because season 1, she had it all together, which is admirable, but it's really not the reality. As you all saw of being a parent. And sometimes you're in the moment of something really important and you got to handle your kid's crisis, which may not feel like a crisis to the parent, but the kid's needs have to come first. And I would love to see that dynamic between her and Jason and how that could play out even more.
I love that because they nibbled at the edges of it in Ahsoka season 1, I think. And I would love for them to take a big bite out of that she's got something important to do, but Jason's in the kitchen force vlogging with a dark spirit. She's like, what are you doing, kid?
Right.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. Nibble around the edges is a great way to look at it, Joseph. And then and even us today, we've mentioned her. She's important. She's general, and I think could be the lead military person against Thrawn in the coming war. But who she is as a person, who she is as a mother, who she is as someone who lost someone she loved with Kanan. That's still, there's a lot on the table to explore her as they did in Rebels. And I think, Jen, that's an excellent point.
It's a wonderful point. Ken, my final thought, I need your help with a sports figure's name. Do you know the meme of the famous wrestling person who gets more excited by new ideas? Do you know what I mean? The sequential, like, this is pretty exciting. Then he's all collapsed.
Oh, the Vince McMahon falls over in the chair. Yeah.
Yes. I was forgetting Vince McMahon's name.
Yes.
That meme comes to my mind. That's okay to do,
by the way. Forget his name. That's totally fine.
Better as a meme than a
better as a meme than a human. Yes.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay. Anyway, welcome to Vince McMahon Center. My point is, I think stripping away all the big ideas, I feel the Vince McMahon meme just because I like all these characters of like, more time with Ahsoka. Wait, more time with Sabine. Wait, Huyang, Baylan, Shin. And I'm exploded back. Like, I love all these characters, even with some ups and downs I had with the first season of Ahsoka. I love those characters, and I'm so excited to focus on them.
I agree.
All right. Take us home, Ken.
All right, we'll take us home with a quick ask as we sign on out of here. We are asking you to consider supporting us over on Patreon at patreon.com/ForceCenter. We are currently at 385 supporters. If we get to 400, we are going to unlock film commentaries. And who knows, maybe show commentaries as well. We have 3 up. I think I've been saying 2. We have 3 up on our Patreon page, but or excuse me, our YouTube page, New Hope, Last Jedi, and Phantom Menace. But even those are on the table because when we hit 400, we're going to put the vote to you, the patrons. What movie do you want us to do a commentary? And this might unlock a commentary series for patrons and then available maybe for purchase like a flight attendant to the public. We're working on Patreon's new kind of system over there. So that all happens if you support us at patreon.com/ForceCenter. You can follow us on Twitter and Threads at ForceCenter Pod. We're on Instagram. Our Facebook page is ForceCenter Podcast. We're available in a lot of spots like our iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and more. Just search, you'll find us before another company goes bankrupt in the podcasting world. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/ForceCenter. You can get the Speculate Responsibly shirt, our classic one, designed by Brian Ward. And as I said, patreon.com/ForceCenter where you can support us. You can follow me at Ken Napzok, and I guess that includes, what's the new one? Laps? I'm on some new one that's like the new Instagram. It's confusing and I feel old. And you can go to my website, kennapzok.com for more. Jen, where can they follow you?
I'm making videos again about Star Wars phonetics, pronunciation, spelling. You can check those out on Instagram, YouTube at Jennifer Landa, or TikTok at Jennifer Landa 1138.
Love it. I saw that. I liked it in all the formats I could like it. So good job there. Joseph, take us home. You got the newsletter out there. It's available. I always forget. It's you know where it's at. Why am I pitching your work?
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And check out Ken's band, the Moon Agers.
Thank you.
Yes, you can find me on all the social media except for the one Ken's talking about. I don't know what this Instagram killer is.
I'll get you both an invite.
Okay. That's exactly what I need because I need to spend more time cutting and pasting the exact same post to another social media site. Anyway, you can find me on all of them at Joseph Scrimshaw. The newsletter is called Finish Your Monsters. You can Google just Finish Your Monsters and it'll pop up. Otherwise, if you want a direct link, you can go to buttondown.email/finishyourmonsters and sign up for that. That is it for me.
That is it for Joseph. That is it for Jen. That is it for all of you pirate booty fans out there who enjoy good snack. I like some applesauce as well, so we'll have that. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time here on ForceCenter.